Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the most popular and least listened to podcast in the world, the Sixth Sense Media Podcast, with your host, Mike Phelan.
Why film directing? Why before you retired, and I saw you got back into it, but when you
Yeah.
started directing films, why the film genre? Why did you decide to start directing?
No, it was just a lot. Like, I watched a lot of films when I was a kid and started loving cinema, going to the movies. And I was fascinated by it. I definitely thought, like, it's an adventurous life to make films. And so I started with Super 8 and then VHS videos and so on, learning by doing. So, but it was it was really like the love for film, nothing else, what drove me forward.
So, when you decided to start directing films, how did you get that process started? Did you just write something and pitch it, or did you find a project that someone thought you would be good at directing? How'd that go about?
No, it was really, I had no context to the film industry. And the good thing was with Frank Lustig, my partner at that time, he was in school with me, and we both wanted to do this. It's always better you have basically a buddy you can bounce ideas with and think what we should shoot. So we started shooting like short films. Like, for example, I had like this big gym and action team figures, and we blowed them up like really like special effect little stop motion movies. And then with the video cameras coming later, like Super 8 was always very tough to develop the film and everything. And with the video cameras coming in, it got so much easier in a way to film. You could film longer stuff, and then we started doing short movies with like amateur actors from our school, and it developed. Maybe we were 17 or 18. We did the first real project. Was basically a documentary about a retirement home. And it was like a 70 minutes documentary. And then we both went off to university and all that kind of stuff. And at one point we felt, I wrote a lot of scripts. I sent the scripts out to producers and everything, but nobody gave me any money or produced anything. So we felt we need to do something ourselves. So we developed that idea of German fried movie, like similar to Kentucky Fried Movie, where you have individual scenes. You can basically prepare the scene like a sketch, funny, whatever, like a parody on a TV show or whatever. Then you shoot that on 16 millimeters, and then you break. Like then you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks to prepare the next scene. So we did that project 1991. It took us 8 months, and then we had like 80 minutes of film together, like various episodically, like Saturday Night Live kind of style, funny stuff. And then we got a distribution deal for this, and it went to the movie theaters in Germany. We got a DVD deal, home video deal with it, and that started it. And then that company who bought German Fried Movie, the same company gave us $150,000 for our next film, what was then Partial Murder in Geneva. It was a police thriller, basically. So they gave us money for this film. And basically from there on, it was every single time it was a struggle to raise the money and keep going. But I continued. My partner, like the Frank Lustig, he didn't. He was like too exhausted to continue. So he dropped out, and then I continued alone.
What was your experience like directing when you started making movies that were more mainstream, like House of the Dead? How was that experience compared to your earlier ones? Was it a big shock that the filmmaking industry was just so big and you were starting to get that ball rolling on your fame?
Yeah, I think it was a mix. It was basically first I did one bigger movie in Germany, and that was the first semester. That was Universal was a partner, and it was a real bigger theatrical German film, a comedy, student comedy. And then I went into a hole because it didn't work out. It didn't make box office. So I said to myself, I need to do American films. I need to do English-speaking films for the world audience, and not like limited to Germany. In 2000, I was able to do then the film Sanctimony with Michael Paré, Casper Van Dien in Vancouver. And that started the U.S. career as a filmmaker. And I did Sanctimony, Blackwoods, and Heart of America. Then I got approached to do House of the Dead. So it was kind of a development to bigger budgets, like from 2 million to 3 million, and then to the House of the Dead, like almost 8 or 9 million budget. So, but of course, House of the Dead was the first bigger feature film what had a real theatrical release, and it was this kind of you grow on the occasion thing, like it was, of course, way more action as I ever did before, and complicated CGI shots and stuff like this. But if you have the right team, it works. And I think we did, of course, we got very bad reviews, but the movie was kind of successful. It made good money worldwide. So that was the thing, but also what triggered that I did more video game-based movies, because it just worked to get the financing together.
And what do you say you took away from House of the Dead that you applied to like Alone in the Dark as far as your directing style?
Alone in the Dark is more, let's say, mainstream, less experimental. I think in House of the Dead, with the animation stuff inside and the total overdrive battle in front of the house, I had the matrix set up. We had like a turntable set up. We really used a lot of technical toys, basically, for House of the Dead. And it was a lot of fun to do it. In Alone in the Dark, I went more, in a way, mainstream. Also, the actors were even like more known, like with Christian Slater, Stephen Dorff, and Tara Reid. And the budget was more as double. But I think House of the Dead is kind of the better movie. It's more fun to watch it, and it's kind of more, in a way, like a campy horror film. I think Alone in the Dark is maybe my worst movie I did, because it's there was various things that were very problematic. The first thing is Atari stopped developing Alone in the Dark 4 at that point, and they gave us before like plot points from that game, and we followed basically a little in the expectation there's a new Alone in the Dark game coming out. When the film comes out, and it's similar to the film, but all of this fell apart, and then we had basically a film where everybody said it's not really Alone in the Dark. So it was in that way not my fault. But what was my fault was, of course, the cast Tara Reid, and it was my fault that we used the script first. Alain Mastave wrote the script, then Rush Scherer went over the script, and then it got all a little messed up. But we were already in pre-production, and we just started shooting the film. And that was a mistake. Financially, not, because we had to. But on the other hand, I should stop pre-production and spend more time developing the script. That is in retrospective, everything is easier. But if you actually have the money together and you have the actors, then it's tough to stop something, right? It's tough to say, Christian Slater, we start 4 or 5 weeks later to shoot, then he's maybe not available anymore. Or maybe he says, no, then fuck it, I signed for another film. All that stuff, because I was always my own producer too. I was the producer and director. So there is always was that struggle in me, Yeah.
I understand. The movies got made, regardless of the problems. They came out. I know productions had just fallen apart and just disappeared. But when it comes to the reviews, does it really matter to you what people say about your films?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, there were sophisticated reviews where you have to learn from, where you have to say, yeah, there are good points, and you try to change it in the future and stuff like this. That is 100%. But at the same time, it's a lot of people don't know about filmmaking who write about filmmaking, and that is the thing where you feel like well, you don't want to educate the critics because then they hate you even more, but they should also put into account sometimes that there are other reasons for things, and you cannot judge everything maybe the same. You cannot judge a production what has 6-7 months of production time and $250 million budget with the same criteria. Somebody makes a $3 million film in 2 weeks or something. It's sometimes a little unfair. And I think I had that later with In the Name of the King, right? I mean, if you compare In the Name of the King with Lord of the Rings, yes, it cannot compete. But if you compare the film with The Golden Compass, whatever, or some other films in that kind of genre, I don't think my film is bad. I like my film more as The Golden Compass, for example. And that is the thing where I think I got sometimes always compared to the total all-time classics, and then my films suck in comparison, But if I mean, you have to be realistic, right? I'm a genre fan too. I watch everything, so I know all the other films, and but I think it's sometimes really unfair. A lot of directors getting a total break. Whatever they do, they're not getting really like harsh criticism for. Take Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, look at Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood, one of 2 favorite films of mine. But look at the other films he did. The Master or Phantom Thread, one of the worst films ever. And he did really shitty films. But because he did that total masterpieces, they give him a credit for whatever he's doing. The same with Terrence Malick. I mean, Terrence Malick is horrible. It's just a horrible, horrible, boring filmmaker who has nothing to tell, but who would say this because he did Badlands in the beginning of his career and stuff like this, and that is the thing where I feel because House of the Dead was the first film on the big scale I did, what a lot of people watched, and then I got a bad review, and then I did Alone in the Dark, got a bad review, then I got Blood Rain and got a bad review, and then whatever I did later, the opinion was the same. The reviews were the same. And movies like Postal, Assault on Wall Street, Rampage, they got, in a way, harsh criticized, but there's no reason to criticize them because they're actually very good films. That is what I personally feel, that a lot of critics really don't look deep enough into what I actually did, and also into the films I did after I was done with that big major video game based movies.
I think another problem may have been when you started getting a name. It also was the time of cynical internet reviews. So finding something that's easy to punch down at, like one of your movies, they're just like, oh, well, it's an Uwe Boll movie, so we don't really have to take it seriously. We can just make fun of it, and we're gonna get that ad revenue anyway on our website. I think that may also be an issue.
Totally.
But then you kind of got to punch back. You got to knock out one of my friends, Rich Kayanka. So you got to show them that you may be strong when it comes to words, but I'm still gonna knock you the fuck out.
Yeah, look, and he was, at that point he was a total prick, right? So I think he was overly criticizing me also as a human being and stuff like this. And then in a way he lied about that we promised him not to box for real or something. That was just a lie, total bullshit. You know, they all had to sign a waiver. We said before it's a revenge fight. It's revenge for all the bad reviews. So that was not good for him. But later when he got really sick and everything, I hoped him, like I wished him all the best, and we since then we have a good online relationship, and I think he respects me now too, and I respected all 4 of them who went in the ring with me because they knew that I boxed when I was younger, right? So they knew there was not a high chance for them that they will win the fight, and but that is also a thing I hoped for all that years to gain some more fan base or like people supporting me because I'm not hiding. You know, I talk to everybody. I don't have an agent, a PR person, a manager, and all that other bullshit with all that Hollywood people have. I'm totally approachable, and I do my own thing. And I know that all this kind of like protection other people have helped them to get better reviews, but I know myself that I'm just a like a maverick guy, right? So I just cannot get disciplined by a PR agent or whatever, or an agent or a manager. I would never listen to them. I would just still do what my gut tells me to do, and then they would like dump me because they think like he's too politically incorrect or he cannot get controlled. So, you know, that is another thing. What was not maybe in my favor in my career, that I never had this kind of corporate behind me to where because I have the feeling like some reviewers are scared if they bash somebody who has a big law firm behind him, a big management company behind them. You know, it's like this. So, and they know I'm not protected by any firm. I think they basically had an easier time, an easier target with Uwe Boll to blame me for everything or whatever, or to bash me for everything.
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. I've worked in the industry for quite a while, and there were times when I would get a movie to review where my editor-in-chief would say, you can't be harsh on this film, or you can't say this, or you have to keep it within like this range of criticism, or you can't give it below this score because we have to stay in good with the studio. And that's when I gave up on reviewing mainstream movies, and I just focused on independent films because an independent filmmaker is not going to be able to sue me for saying that their movie is good, bad, or anything. I can be honest, as opposed to a studio that can just say, okay, no more access for you, no more screeners, no more press events. Yeah. So that's when I just gave up on mainstream movies as part of my writing. Just quit altogether.
No, and 100%. I see that. You know, I see 100%. You're 100% right and honest about it. And I think that there were films like whatever Matrix 2 and 3 or whatever, where you know, where if I would shot that films, I would won all the Razzies. And people would say the biggest fucking piece of shit ever produced, you know. But that is this kind of films, they are then protected by that get so much P&A behind it. And yes, they got bad reviews, but they should got way worse reviews as they actually got.
I completely agree. My last questions, because I've kind of gone over our allotted time here, but what would be your words of wisdom to up-and-coming filmmakers? What would you say to them, those people that want to break into the industry the way you did?
Yeah, stay true to yourself. Don't try to make it right for everybody, and try to find like your voice. You know, stay stay on track. Find out where you're good at. What you're good at. Like, are you a good drama guy, a good comedy guy, and try to be the best in this what you feel you can, So that I think that is it. But then also try to connect yourself with the right people. Try to network in a way, So the big issue of film is it costs so much money. If you're a painter or a writer, you have it way easier. You can do it all at home, and it doesn't cost real money. But if you are if you want to make films, it means you have to be a communicator. You have to be a money raiser. You have to be out there, And you can go based on your personal life history, location you are. You have to find your way to finally make it happen. And that could be totally different ways depending on what is your surrounding. I mean, if your father is Jeff Bezos, you don't have to really kiss ass to Hollywood, So that is the thing. You really have to see. But let's say you are what we all normally are, coming from nothing and not being really connected to the film industry. Then maybe in today's time, the best advice would be work your way up and try to volunteer in a production company or in a studio. Try to get involved there like an assistant. Try to learn on sets as a PA, and then make it work. Then connect yourself on set with people you can use maybe for a short film. You convince the gaffer. You convince the camera guy to do for free with you a short film, what you can shop around. You can say, look, short film this. So, there was a lot. Here's a lot of tips I'm giving, but I think that could be the best idea. I'm coming from a small German town, and we just didn't have any film industry. So I had to just film with that Super 8 camera or video camera. Basically something, because I couldn't go on a film set and work. There was nothing. So it's different now. The film industry growth, of course, in the last 40 years. And so I think trying to volunteer somewhere is an easier way as to start filming on your own and try to do something completely on your own as what I was forced to do.
You've been listening to the Sixth Sense Media Podcast. You can find more of our celebrity interviews and roundtable discussions on iTunes, Podbean, and SoundCloud. Be sure to check out our movie, TV, and video game coverage at sixthsense.com and fanbolt.com.